Hey everybody, welcome back to week 3 of Let's Talk. Today's session we're going to be talking about conflict. Yeah, that's right. That's not an easy topic to discuss or experience in practice. Now I'm not going to talk about jitsu or wrestling, but we're talking about conflict in relationships. So let's get right down to it, all right? Any good confrontation takes into account that two people are involved. That sounds obvious, right? But it isn't. We also have to understand that an essential part of an effective conflict is that we have resolving conversations. One reason you have a problem in the first place is that you and the person you want to confront are not of the same mind. You aren't the same person, you don't see things the same way, you don't feel the same way, and you have different ideas on what to do about it. Now listen, this is not a bad thing in and of itself. Like we're learning, Dr. Les Perot, in his discussion on fighting the good fight, he shares that many of our conflicts are due to those differences. The differences in how we perceive the situation versus the other person, how they see the situation. So we draw conclusions based on our perceptions of what the other person is doing or saying. And sometimes we view that other person as a threat. We can see them as critical, they're demanding, they're judgmental, attacking, they're controlling, or we might perceive them as the opposite, kind of they're neglecting us, they don't seem to care, they're uncommitted, they're neglectful, they're selfish, they're disengaged. The first step to resolving a conflict is to be clear about what is you and what is me. When we don't clearly distinguish our feelings and opinions from the other person's, especially when having a difficult conversation, the process of problem solving and reconciliation can quickly get bogged down. It gets very complicated. But when you see when this happening, when people are saying things like, you need to change this, or I need you to change this. You notice there's an I who has a desire and a request, and there's a you who's being asked to change. In other words, you're the problem, right? A friend of mine had great difficulty with this issue in her marriage. For example, when she was tired of cooking and wanted to go out to dinner, she would say to her husband, you haven't taken us out for a while, or you probably need a night out to dinner. Her husband was suspicious whenever she'd make those kind of comments because he would feel blamed or he would feel manipulated. When instead, if she said, I don't want to cook tonight and I would like to go out to dinner, see, she's clarifying whose desire it is to go out to dinner. She's saying, I want to go out. Then he would respond much better. If you're not clear about the you and I in your confrontation, the other person may feel controlled by you, manipulated, or assume feelings that he or she doesn't have. They might balk at whatever you want. So here's some suggestions to clarify your communication. What you got to do is look at it empathically. In other words, put yourself in their shoes. Reflect on how you don't like it when people try to put their words in your mouth. So think about how you disconnect from that other person when they tell you what you're feeling, when it's really what she wants you to feel, right? So, or he, but look, reflect on your own experience and that'll give you empathy for the other person's situation. You'll be able to be clear about your own opinions and emotions and they can understand. So remember, even though confronting is hard, you can receive a confrontation when you allow the other person the grace to their own responses to your opinions. Be clear in your own mind. The more clear you are ahead of time about what you want in this, what you want in the relationship, what you want in this situation, what you're asking the other person to do, the better things will go. So write it out, talk through with the friend exactly what the I and the you parts are. Then when it's time for the conversation, you'll have a roadmap in your head for what you want and where you're going. I've seen so many breakdowns happen when the person being confronted says, so what do you really want? And the confronter gets flustered. So have a specific answer for that question before you begin the conversation. Speak from your need, not their need. Tell the other person, I really need more commitment from you in our dating, or I don't think I can move forward. That's much better than you need to be more committed to me. That's an accusation, see? They may not experience that need. They may not feel the same as you. They might resent you for telling them what they need to do or feel. So speak from your own need. That helps you avoid being seen as the parent of the relationship. That never helps, okay? When people say, we need to talk, for example, they're confusing their wishes with those of the other person, right? You read somebody say, we need to talk, and you don't really feel like that. It's much better to say, I need to talk to you. Deal with any fears of separateness. Often a person who avoids clearly saying, I need and I want, has a problem with experiencing herself or himself as a separate person. They have a problem with their own set of values or desires, their own dreams or feelings. Saying what she needs and wants makes her feel very isolated and alone. That difficulty in expressing wants and needs indicates that you're not comfortable with yourself or with being an individual. If that's your situation, get some help from some knowledgeable people on how to become more established in your own identity. Try and be more secure in who you are, and don't be afraid. There's a book called Boundaries. It's a great resource for that process. You may want to check it out. Be humble. Remember, you have no control over the other person you're confronting. And more than that, you're asking for something that you need from them. So be humble. Just admit, I have a need. There's something you can help me with. That's a position where you're saying, I want and I need, as a way of letting the other person know that they're important to you and that you do need them. And you need what they have to offer and what they can bring. That's very different than trying to control or tell them what to do. This way the other person knows also that they're free to choose and respond to that need and not be controlled by you, but to offer. The Bible refers to God's attitude towards this. He says, you save the humble, but you bring low those whose eyes are haughty. It's in Psalm 18:27. So as much as possible, stay away from the we need to and you need. We need to, you need to. They're traps. Speak from your own experience, from your own heart, and your own needs. That increases the likelihood that your side will be heard because it's been clearly identified as your side. You're letting them know. Look, no one likes to be told who he or she is or what he or she should think. Dr. Parrott talks about this too, and he teaches this. It's so good. We can decrease tension and increase intimacy in our relationships by sharing withholds, both positive and negative. Both positive and negative. In other words, we don't hold back on how we feel when something is in our minds. We can have the tendency to forget the positive and bury the negative. When we forget the positive, we miss an opportunity for encouragement. If we don't share our negative feelings, they'll usually come around again and kind of explode out of us, right? So Dr. Parrott suggests we ask the person if we can share withholds, and then sandwich the negative between two positive withholds. You get what I'm saying? In other words, don't forget to thank the other person when they share their withholds, and give yourselves a 30-minute break before you get back together to see if there's more discussion needed. Here are some more helps for dealing with difficult conversations and conflicts in your relationships. Look, make sure that good relationships are a priority. Treat the other person with the respect that you want. Do your best to be courteous. Discuss matters constructively. Separate the person from the problem. Recognize that in many cases the other person is not quote unquote being difficult. Maybe they're just real and valid differences that lie between you and them and your conflicting positions. Respect that. Separate the problem from the person and you can discuss the issue without damaging the relationship. Listen carefully to different interests. You'll get a better grasp of why people have adopted their position. Look, if you try to understand their point of view, you're going to have to listen first. Talk second. That's something I'm working on. Listen, you should listen to what the other person is saying before you defend yourself. They might say something that changes your mind. Set out the facts and decide on the observable facts that might impact your decision. Think about that decision together. Explore options together. Be open to the idea that a third position might exist. Maybe there's something you can negotiate, agree on together. You guys could reach it jointly. So just wrapping it all up, finally, this is what's important, guys. We got to remember the problem isn't the problem. The way we handle problems is more than the problems themselves. Conflict's natural, it's an inevitable part of relationships. In a relationship, we're going to have differences. And relationships will not always be harmonious. We're not always going to get along, you guys. Hello. But as partners become closer, those differences can inevitably become disagreements. But the fact that conflict exists in an intimate relationship doesn't necessarily mean that love is absent. In fact, conflict can be beneficial to a relationship if we handle it and we resolve it in a healthy way. How effectively we deal with anger and conflict is critical to our relationship growth. Without effective conflict resolution and that skill, those relationships can become stagnant and distant. But we can create a win-win situation in difficult conversations and conflicts as our relationships grow in their intimacy and vitality. So God bless you as you sharpen your skills, your communication skills through Let's Talk.